The story of the first Christmas tree was told to me by the Fairy Queen herself, so you can be quite sure it is a true one. Here it is. Once upon a time there lived in the middle of a forest a poor woodcutter. He had one little daughter called Annis, who he loved dearly. Annis was a dear little girl, kind and gentle. She was very fond of all the woodland creatures, and they in turn knew and loved her well. The fairies loved her also. They used to dance on top of the low stone wall that went round the little garden in front of the cottage. Annis, Annis, they would call to her while she was busy helping her mother in the kitchen, but she would shake her head. I can't come, I'm busy, she would answer. But at night time, when she was fast asleep under her red quilt, they would come tapping at the little window. Annis, Annis. Then she would slip out of bed and run quickly downstairs with her bare feet, and off with the fairies into the moon-shining woods. But the next day she was never sure whether it had been a dream or reality. That was in the summer. It was winter now, and very cold. The sky was dark and heavy with coming snow. Every evening all through the winter, Annis would hang a little lantern with a candle in it on the small fir tree that grew just inside the garden gate. Her father could see it as he came home through the trees. It was a little bright welcome for him even before he reached home. On Christmas Eve he went to work as usual. He came home for his dinner at midday and started back early. He was at work quite a long way off. I shall finish there today, he said to his wife as he left the house. Then I shall come nearer home. If the snow comes, it will be difficult to find the way in the dark evening. And that very day the snow came. All the afternoon it fell in great soft flakes, down, down, down. It seemed as if the whole sky were falling in little bits. The woodcutter worked hard in the fading light. It was quite dark by the time he had finished, and he had to keep shaking the snow from his shoulders and from his hat. The wood was all neatly stacked in the little shed which had been built up there to house it. He started off home with a sigh of relief, smiling to himself as he thought of his warm hearth and the bowl of hot porridge waiting for him by the hob, and of course of little Annis knitting in the chimney corner. But presently, how it happened, I know not, for he knew the forest well, and the snow had almost stopped falling, and the moon was shining. He found that he had lost his way. He was quite cheerful at first. In a minute I shall find the path again, he said, but minutes passed and he did not find it. A cloud came over the moon. The snow began to fall again, thickly. It was like a moving, whirling mist where the trees stood less close together. The woodcutter began to lose heart. Then suddenly he saw a light ahead of him on one of the fir trees. Can I be so near home? He said, half bewildered. But when he came near, he found that it was not a fir tree in his own garden that was lit up, but an ordinary forest tree. Little lights twinkled and glittered on its branches, burning brightly and steadily in spite of the falling snow. The woodcutter rubbed his eyes. Then he crossed himself. If this be wicked magic, he thought, it will now disappear. But the lights burned more brightly than ever, and he looked about him. He saw in the distance another tree lit up in the same way. Then he understood. It is the good fairies helping me, he said, and trudged off cheerily in the direction of the second tree. And when he looked back, the first one had already grown dark again. But when he reached the second tree, another was shining ahead to show him the way. And so he went on from tree to tree, until at last he was guided safely home to Annis's little lantern in his own garden. And always after that he used to put lights on a little fir tree on Christmas Eve, in memory of the time when the fairies saved him from being lost in the forest. And so the custom goes, and it's because it was such a pretty one, and because the fairies so willed it, it spread. And today the fairy Christmas tree is to be found all over the world, in houses where there are children and where fairies come. So I hope you liked this little Christmas story. This was my favorite soap I made this season, And actually the scariest, if I had left in the sound, you would have heard me audibly gasp when I started to pour the black sky, which is colored with activated charcoal, on the tree with the star, and how everything slid, and I had to hold it with my hand to put the rest of the pieces in. And I really did not have much hope at all until I cut it the next day. And it was just unbelievable when it cut the next day. I was so happy. So unfortunately, this one is already gone. I do have a few bars left of an equally pretty kind of similar soap called Winterwoods, and that's on my website and on my Etsy. So please feel free to check that out. There'll be another video next week to show you another of the holiday shop collection. And I thank you so much for watching today. This was the next part of what I feel is what we do around this week of December, and that is get the tree. Whether you use a fresh one or a fake one, equally beautiful. But this is what I feel like is the week that if you haven't decorated already, you start to.